The bail order for 22-year-old environmental activist Disha Ravi has been reserved till Tuesday. This after an hour-long bail hearing where the judge asked the Delhi police a series of tough questions about their reasoning that this environmental activist was in league with secessionists and conspiring to cause the violence during the farmers' tractor rally on Republic Day. At one point, Judge Dharmendra Rana even dubbed it conjecture. Where is the evidence? The judge asked repeatedly, saying he could not move on without satisfying his conscience.
Delhi court has reserved the order on bail plea of Disha Ravi, 22-year-old environmental activist who was arrested in sedition case on the 13th of February from Bengaluru.
Disha moved bail application after she was sent to 3 days of judicial custody on Friday. This after she was questioned for 5 days by Delhi police in their custody.
Delhi police also opposed the bail plea of Disha Ravi, stating that she created the WhatsApp group named International Farmers Strike on the 6th of December, and she was also in touch with M.O. Dhaliwal and Anita Lal, both founders of the Poetic Justice Foundation, who according to the Delhi police are supporters of the Khalistani movement. Police also accused Disha of deleting her WhatsApp chats with them, thereby tampering with the evidence. Judge Dharmendra Rana posed some tough questions to the Delhi police. The judge wanted to know about the evidence collected by the Delhi police so far, linking Disha Ravi with the violence on Republic Day during the farmers' tractor rally. Despite asking for it 3 times, when the police couldn't produce any such documentary evidence, the judge said, "Unless I satisfy my conscience, I don't move ahead." How do you connect the actual actors of the 26th January violence with Disha Ravi? The judge asked. The Delhi police replied, the persons who have executed the conspiracy may have read the toolkit. Is there any evidence, or are we on surmises or conjectures? The judge asked. We are still investigating, said the Delhi police. Appearing for Disha Ravi, advocate Siddharth Agarwal argued that around 149 protesters have been arrested till now for allegedly indulging in violence on 26th of January, but not one is directly connected to Disha. He also submitted that Disha has been attached to environmental and agricultural causes, but has no links with Khalistani movement whatsoever.
After 3 hours of argument, the Patiala House Court has reserved its orders on Disha Ravi's bail plea for Tuesday. The same day, her 3 days of judicial custody is getting over. With camera person Prem Singh, this is Arvind Gunasekar for NDTV.
So, the Delhi police arrested Disha Ravi from Bengaluru last Saturday, alleging that she is a key conspirator in the case and that she prepared and spread the toolkit in an attempt to revive a Khalistani group. But in court today, when asked repeatedly by the judge for the evidence, the Delhi police says that the investigation is still underway, that the investigation is still in the preliminary stages. So the question tonight is, did the police go ahead with the arrest based on allegations without necessary evidence? Joining us now, we have Mr. A.K. Jain, former DGP of UP. We have Vikram Singh, former DGP again of UP, Ashwini Dubey, an advocate of the Supreme Court, and Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Mr. A.K. Jain, can I ask you first, the police's contention here is that Disha Ravi is in league with secessionists, right, with Khalistani supporters, that she was conspiring to cause the Republic Day violence during the farmers' tractor rally. But the judge asked them today, what is the evidence collected by you to show the link between her and the 26 Jan violence? How do you actually connect these actual violators on 26 January with Disha, and the police says they're still investigating this? What is going on? Is this a shoddy investigation? Did they rush in to arrest this person?
Delhi police will have to prove in the court that there is a direct connection between Disha Ravi and Poetic Justice Foundation or Sikhs for Justice organization. And if they fail to do that, if they fail to produce a direct link,
my question is, can a person be arrested based on a charge or an allegation by the police without evidence for it? Do you have to have evidence if you arrest someone?
Yes. My contention is that police thinks that this evidence is crucial and it links her to Mo Dhariwal and to the Khalistan group. Now the contention of the thinking of the judge is that it is mere conjecture and it is not proved. So naturally it's an evidence-based case, and in the court on 26th February, I think bail will be granted or rejected only based on evidence.
All right. So you're saying these are hints that you think. Of course, we have no way of knowing, but going by what's been heard in court. But Vikram Singh, I'm going to quote here what the judge asked, right? He says, what exactly is the evidence collected against this young lady, against this lady, I beg your pardon, connecting her to the violence perpetrated on the 26th of January? Is there any evidence, or are we required to merely work on surmises and conjectures? This is a very harsh, hard question. I mean, the police, their socks are being pulled up, or they're being asked to pull up their socks. Correct?
Good evening, Sarah. It is not a matter of or conjecture. It is a matter sincere investigation, the provisions of Section 4160 CRPC Chapter 5, and also the various guidelines given by the Honorable Supreme Court regarding how bail should be the norm and should be the exception. Justice Krishna Iyer, 1977, again reinforced in Arta Goswami.
Can we, Mr. Singh, just hold on a second. Let's just try and reconnect. I'm sure, because we want to hear you clearly. Let's reconnect Mr. Vikram Singh. Meanwhile, I'm just going to read out another quote. This is what has been reported. These are all quotes that have been reported by the press. The judge asks the police what evidence they have to connect Ms. Ravi to the January 26 violence, to which the police responds saying, in a conspiracy, not everyone will have the same role. Somebody influenced by the toolkit may be instigated and indulge in violence, right? Now, the Delhi police was represented by the Additional Solicitor General S.V. Raju. Now, he argued that conspiracy can be seen only through circumstantial evidence. And the judge then shoots back. So, you don't have any evidence to connect Disha with the January 26 violence. He says, again, the judge says, so should I presume there's no direct link now? The judge asks in return, and the ASG replies that the police are still investigating. Do we have Mr. Singh back on? Okay. Ashwini Dubey, let's try and get Mr. Singh on. But Ashwini Dubey, when the police counsel could still not come up with an answer, the judge then says, unless I satisfy my conscience, I don't move ahead. Let me ask you this question we're raising tonight on this debate. The Delhi police says they're still investigating. So why arrest? And what happens if, as a layperson, what if it takes the Delhi police 10 years to collect evidence? Does one just stay in jail until they do that?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah, for having me here. Sarah, there are three things in a criminal law. One is the suspect, accused, and the convict. When police arrest somebody on the basis of the FIR which is registered, then the court review those evidences on the basis of which the police take into custody somebody for investigation. Now, when the bail is moved, apart from what the submissions were made by the counsel for Disha Ravi, the court has to look into the evidences which has been gathered, collected, and investigated by the police, because court see it and then on its wisdom decide. Now, one thing, the arrest of Disha Ravi is not illegal. She has not been illegally detained. She has been detained or arrested by virtue of the FIR which is registered. Now, the question which is coming normal, these questions are very normal. The surmises, conjectures, what evidences you have, what links you have. These are the questions when court asks, because senior advocate Mr. Hegde, my respected senior, is here. He would agree to it that when a bail application is moved, the court asks this question, what is the link with this? Now the investigation which is going on, the link between the banned terrorist organization, Sikh for Justice, the another organization, Poetic Justice Foundation, and these people who have been arrested and who have been granted the transit bail. Now, if it comes to the conclusion by the court while reviewing the evidences which has been gathered by the police that Disha Ravi has been, there is no evidence against the Disha Ravi, court on its wisdom decided and will give the bail to Disha Ravi, one. And the second, if the court finds no further investigation is required and there are certain evidences, the conspiracy meeting of minds needs to be investigated, and for the violence of 26 January, Disha Ravi and other persons are involved and the investigation is going on, it's a continuing process, then court may not grant the bail. This is the basic criteria, Sarah.
But okay, so Vikram Singh, then if that is the case, who will answer for the fact that this person has spent or will spend by Tuesday 8 days in, in between judicial custody and police custody?
Sarah, there are no grey areas. It is very cut and dried, and the case laws in respect of bail are very clear. As in the case of 1977 Justice Krishna Iyer case of Supreme Court, that bail should be the norm and jail should be the exception. And that was reiterated again by the Supreme Court in Arnab Goswami's case on 20th November last year. And to that extent, I would say arrest and bail are not a matter of choice, conjectures and surmises, the presumption. This is a serious matter. And if the judge, honorable judge, had the conscience, I do hope and feel that the police and the investigators also are accountable to their conscience. Agreed. Section 120B of the IPC is one of the most difficult sections to prove for the last 125 years. But the police is expected to do their homework and come out with facts that are solid and incontrovertible, rather than say that we are working on it. If you're not working out, you're not sure of your homework, then take time and take pains to work around the clock on the fast forward, fire all the engines and ensure that the evidence produced before the court is convincing, to say the least.
Okay,
so that
but let me ask,
story figure.
All right, but let me ask Sanjay Hegde, yes, you don't want to cut a story figure, but if you are still working on your investigation, don't rush in until you are sure of the contents of your investigation, says Vikram Singh, former DGP. But Sanjay Hegde, the charge of destruction of evidence, right? The police, meanwhile, is also arguing that bail should be denied or can be denied because there's a chance that the accused could indulge in tampering of evidence, for example. So how do you balance that out? Is there a balance? Because they also need to investigate, because these are serious charges. But on the other hand, you have the right to liberty.
See, there are 2 or 3 things out here. First question is, was arrest necessary at all? Obviously, the police had not done its homework, not established its linkages before deciding to arrest. Now, having arrested, they're trying to defend the arrest and see to it that the lady does not get bail. So these are the standard ones that, she might abscond, she might tamper with the evidence, etc., etc. If memory serves me right, Siddharth Agarwal argued in court, you can keep her in Delhi. You had her for 5 days. Did you even take her to Bangalore and check what evidence was remaining, which you did not seize when you actually took custody of the lady? They did not do anything for 5 days. As most of the evidence out here is electronic. What is electronic evidence? How can you connect it? You need the devices. You have to check whether she has another mobile phone, another laptop, or any device through which she accessed the internet. Those are physical things that can be done. There is no need for continued custody of Disha Ravi is the basic argument, and that she is not a flight risk and that she will cooperate with the investigation. What is all this about keeping a 22-year-old girl locked up till you finally decide whether you have a case or not?
Well, her age in this case irrelevant. The same has been done for people across the age bar across the country. But
just one more line, Sarah, if you don't mind.
Sure.
See, this is how police routinely investigate almost every case. They arrest first, ask questions later, and they make up their case later. People are denied bail on a routine basis. In Madhya Pradesh, Munawar Farooqi is out, but those who were arrested with him are still inside for 50 odd days. So this kind of police state needs to be asked questions of by the courts. Tougher questions like what we saw today would definitely help the cause of liberty in India.
So you're saying the tough questions clearly were asked in court of the police, but the order has been reserved for Tuesday. That means, and that's a day after her judicial custody ends, right? So what does that mean for her? She's going to, what happens on Monday when her judicial custody ends then?
Pending 1 day of the judgment, possibly the magistrate will have to take another call. But I would not like to speculate on the final order. I've learnt in my 30 odd years of courtcraft that you never go by what a judge asks in questions. A judge can beat up one side, then he can beat up the other side. Then he'll sit down quietly and ponder his judgment.
Yes,
even in the course of writing, people can change their minds.
Of course, these can only be seen as hints, but who knows what decision will be arrived at on Tuesday. But thank you all for joining us tonight, where we raise this important question. Do you need to have evidence before you make an arrest? And did the Delhi police move too soon in this case? All right, let's get you to the other big story of the day, a story that affects each and every one of us. The centre has now said that there are 5 states across the country that are seeing a spike in the number of coronavirus cases, and this is over the past 1 week. 5 states, Kerala, Maharashtra, Punjab, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, are experiencing an upsurge in daily cases. The upswing comes after a low that was started in November, December, and amidst a race to push forward the vaccination process. Now, Madhya Pradesh is also witnessing a rise in the number of daily new cases. In the last 24 hours, there have been 297 daily new cases registered in the state. And over the last 7 days, Chhattisgarh has also seen a rise in new active cases. In the last 24 hours, we've seen 259 daily new cases being reported in the state of Chhattisgarh. And joining us now is the Health Minister, T.S. Singh Deo of Chhattisgarh, joining us now. Mr. Deo, of course, very worrying. Initially, for the first 2 days, we were reporting that Kerala and Maharashtra were seeing cases increasing. Now, 3 more states, including Chhattisgarh, the authorities in Maharashtra have attributed the rise to a laxity in implementing safety measures, especially since local trains started running. What are you attributing this to in Chhattisgarh? For example, schools have begun in your state. Any connections?
Not really related, but you could be right in that sense that those who were not testing earlier, presuming that they were being asymptomatic, they were not testing earlier, and if some of them who are now getting into the protocol of testing before going to school, whether children or teachers, being asymptomatic, a number of them could be coming under the umbrella of COVID positive people. That may be so, but the number would be not large. The number would be not large, and the peer pressure of other states opening up class 10, class 12 board exam schools, some of them with class 9 and 11, that peer pressure has also been a factor in Chhattisgarh following the decided norm.
But Mr. You know, the big worry and the big story, of course, now these new strains of COVID-19, right? And we've spoken with the director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He has said that this new strain that's being reported in Maharashtra could cause reinfections. It could be more transmissible, more dangerous. We need to go back to aggressive testing, contact tracing, isolation. We could see another wave of infections like it has in Western countries. Isn't that a concern for you?
It is early in the sense that in the UK, from a study of 140,000 corona positives, 4,000 mutations were observed. So it is not a small number that this mutation is. So 4,000 odd mutations, if they were observed in 140,000 corona positive cases, the genetic change is so minor that the scientists are not worried about those. So only those very few genetic changes which could be leading to conditions like you are rightly saying would be more worrisome in the terms of their capacity to spread and their possibility of increasing mortality. So those are unfortunately something we have to live with and deal with as it comes. Today 3 or 4 cases is not really a cause of worry, though like you are rightly saying again, New Zealand, which was among the first countries to declare themselves as corona-free, about a week back they had 3 cases and Auckland was brought under a lockdown. So there people are being very, very cautious. I won't say over-cautious, but very, very cautious. We are not dealing with it at that degree of response, but we need to be careful. We need to be very cautious.
Thank you, sir. We hope you're right. Thank you for your time, Mr. T.S. Singh Deo.